Well, hey everyone. Welcome to another Quest-i-on. The quest I am on, the quest to illuminate the single eye. And that artist, as I'm sure you're familiar, was Nirvana with the songs Something in the Way and Lithium, all from the album Nevermind, which I would say undeniably the most influential, Nirvana being the most influential rock band of the 90s and perhaps much, much more. And then that album being the most influential album of the 90s for sure. Very, very powerful stuff. So let's take a deeper look in the lyrics and see what we see. So Something in the Way. Pretty simple lyrics, not, it's not a lot of, there's not a lot of lyrics, but there's a lot of depth to them. So we could look at this from a surface level of just a dive into homelessness, and it could be referencing that, certainly. But what I see here is a deeper sort of introspection into the fallen state of man. So underneath the bridge being the connection point to the divine. Red Hot Chili Peppers sings about this in their song Under the Bridge. So when we are not crossing the bridge, when we're not using it, we're underneath it, not acknowledging it. So our heart and our head are not connected. Our left and our right hemispheres are not connected. And we are seemingly separate in this experience, choosing to not acknowledge or not see, not remember our connection. So underneath the bridge, tarp has sprung a leak. So the tarp being this pseudo protective way, this false, the creation of man to try and shield us from horrors within the experience. It might work for a time, but it's only temporary. So it sprung a leak. Our way of doing that is falling through. And the animals I've trapped have all become my pets. So sort of seeing this inverted nature of our relationship with animals and trapping them and treating them as if they're our property that we can do with as we please, to consume or to abuse or breed in all sorts of strange ways. And so sort of just examining that layer. And I'm living off of grass and the drippings from the ceiling. So living off of grass, we've sort of lowered ourselves to the animalistic nature and the drippings from the ceiling, whatever we can get, whatever that comes through. So we've fallen to a very low form. And then he says it's okay to eat fish because they don't have any feelings. So again, just sort of examining this hypocritical way, like, who are you to say that fish don't have feelings? Because that's a justification that people will often use for consuming fish, which I'm not here to shame anyone for wherever we are on the food journey. Fish is definitely an improvement, a stepping stone in the right direction if you are going to still consume flesh. However, we don't need to be lying to ourselves about it and saying things like fish don't have any feelings, because who are we to say? They have a nervous system. They have a will to survive. No fish is willingly giving itself to be killed. But in our fallen state, we justify these things. And the fish representing the Pisces, or the wisdom, we instead of seeing the higher form of fish and what it represents, we've fallen into the lowest form and are just consuming it as if it's our food. So again, another examining. And then he breaks into the chorus, something in the way. So it could be referring to something in the way. And then it follows with like the Sacred Mother bringing us back into union with the way. And then the next verse, he says, yeah. And the Y, the yeah is like the Christ, the open cup, the Y representing that open chalice. So the Christ with the Sacred Mother, perhaps. Or he's referring to there is something in the way. You know, there's something blocking us. We have taken on a block for following this way, this path. And that's what leads us to this fallen state. And yeah, the next verse is simply a repeat, so I don't need to go through that again. So like I said, there's not a whole lot of lyrics to this song, but the way that it's written, it's very chilling. And yeah, that's why it continues to just lead me to this introspection of the fallen state of man, and using these sort of ways to allegorize and demonstrate that. It's also, there's a remix version in The Batman, a movie that came out in, I think, 2020, maybe 2022. Yeah, 2022, I believe. Really, really awesome remake as well by I don't remember the name of the metal band, but it's a metal band that did a remake of the song. It's very chilling to listen to that. Very fitting for that movie as well. But anyway, that's Something in the Way by Nirvana. And then the next song, Lithium. So I'm so happy because today I found my friends. They're in my head. I'm so ugly, that's okay, because so are you. We broke our mirrors. Sunday morning is every day for all I care, and I'm not scared. Light my candles in a daze because I found God. So I see this as like a return to faith, return to that spiritual connection, and sort of the back and forth that we can go on in this process as we're sort of repairing our schismed mind and reality. And it can, make us feel crazy at times. So I'm so happy because today I found my friends. They're in my head. Our connection is within us. So finding this, the angelic connections, the divine connection within us. I'm so ugly, that's okay. So sort of abandoning this constant pursuit of physical perfection and the physical looks and everything in the external. I'm so ugly, that's okay, because so are you. We broke our mirrors, so we're no longer fixated on this surface level reality. Sunday morning is every day for all I care, and I'm not scared. I'm not afraid to, go to church, but not in the external physical sense. Sunday morning is every day because I am connecting to God. I'm lighting my candles in a daze. Even if I'm still stumbling and falling, I pick myself up and I light my candles because I found God. I light that light within. So yeah, and then he kind of confirms it with these the number of yas here. So again, as I mentioned, ya can represent the Christ, and to just doubly emphasize it, there are 13 yas in the chorus. And as we know, they have tried to say that 13 is this big, bad, scary number that everyone should stay away from. And so when we live in an inverted reality, or attempted to be inverted reality, then just flip it right back up and see 13 as one of the most divine, powerful numbers, because it is the Christ and the 12. The 12 unified together, the 12 disciples, the 12 knights at the round table, the 12 cranial nerves, the 12 major organ systems, all the 12 in harmony to represent the 13, the Christ, the harmonized self. So that's why he says, yeah, 13 times. And then it continues, I'm so lonely, that's okay. I shave my head and I'm not sad. So this is a solitary journey. So being okay with the straight and narrow, the lonely path, being content with that nature. It doesn't mean that we don't have connections. In fact, it actually means that our connections grow deeper and are more real. But in order to have that, we have to be okay with the lonely, build that foundation within, not based on external relationships. I shave my head and I'm not sad. Again, just sort of abandoning the physical appearances and being okay with that. And perhaps even referring to like a monk, they shave their head as a homage to that path and that process as well. So perhaps it's referring to that. And just maybe I'm to blame for all I've heard, but I'm not sure. So taking responsibility doesn't necessarily need to be blame, but taking responsibility for what I've heard and where I've gotten to, and recognizing that there is no other, so I don't have anyone else to blame for where we've fallen into. And then I'm so excited, I can't wait to meet you there, and I don't care. So rekindling that connection with the divine, with God, we get excited. I can't wait to meet you there, and I don't care. I'm so horny, that's okay, my will is good. So this is unveiling sort of this sexual nature and how that sexual energy is actually what propels this Christic essence within us. So not demonizing the sexual nature of us. We are inherently sexual beings, but my will is good, as he says. So to recognize that the sexual nature is the most powerful magic within creation, and it has can be very easily inverted into the animalistic primal lower form of it. So we're here to transmute that, to bring it higher, not to abandon, not to snuff it out or pretend it's not there, but to transmute it and bring it higher. So I'm so horny, that's okay, my will is good. I'm aligned with that good higher nature. And then again, he repeats, 13 times, illustrating the Christ once again. And then towards the end, I like it, I'm not going to crack. So once we have tasted that and we start to repair the schismed mind, the crack, we continue to affirm that we don't want to lose that. So I like it, I'm not going to crack. I miss you, I'm not going to crack. I miss you, God. I love you, God. I'm not going to crack. I killed you, God. I'm not going to crack. We have killed every representation, or tried to at least, every representation of the divine manifest physically. And of course, we all are the divine manifest physically, but the ones who come to show the way in the most powerful sense, the Christed ones. I killed you. So recognizing that, taking responsibility for that, I'm not going to crack. I'm not going to fall into the self-loathing for that. We move forward. So, and then it repeats again, just emphasizing that. All said and done, I'm not going to crack 8 times, that infinite 8, perpetuity. And then it repeats here. Yeah, these are the same lines as the beginning, just to emphasize that. Again, 13 times the Christ. And then the same lines again, I'm not going to crack. So that's the song Lithium by Nirvana. Again, I would say undeniably the most powerful album of that decade. Most powerful band, most powerful album, certainly in rock and roll. So very, very powerful stuff. Hopefully we'll see him again soon. I know he didn't actually die. It would be certainly lovely to reconnect with that beautiful man. So again, welcome to the show today, and we'll just do some quick announcements before we get into it. So I do just want to remind everyone that I am 100% donation supported to do all that I do. So if you'd like to support me, you can go to my contribution links on my website, justincarpenter.org. Just click the button contribute, and you can find all of my links here. I do want to sort of highlight this because right now I'm sort of, just to be very transparent, I'm facing some annual costs to do what I do, and just trying to navigate and find ways to fund and pay for those. So one of them being my Zoom annual subscription cost. That's coming up here in just a couple weeks. And that's, I think, around like $180 or something like that for a year. And I use Zoom to do my watch parties and to do private calls. And especially when I start doing more shows on like YouTube Live or Rumble Live or wherever, that's a great platform to do that with. So I do see it as a pretty essential part of what I do. But as I mentioned, I'm my only source of income, if you will, is through donations. So I'm just making a humble request to help me out with that one. I do have my website annual subscription coming up in a couple months. So that's something to keep in mind as well. That is a few $100s for a yearly cost. And I see my website as essential as well. You know, that's where I can catalog all of my work and make it easily searchable for people to find and not have risk of censorship from these other platforms that I use. So these are costs that are coming up. And then on top of that, I do regularly support Bali and the Lions of Uganda, their children's ministry, the orphanage in Uganda. So these are just some regular things that continue, you know, are coming up in the short term. Bali is a regular cost and I want to continue helping out, but I am finding it increasingly difficult to make that happen. So it's just a humble request that if you can help out in any way, that's super appreciated. It does go a long way. I keep my costs very, very minimal. I don't know exactly how much typically I make in a month. It kind of varies, but it's usually definitely well under $1,000 a month. But I'd say most months it's well under $500 a month that I make in donations. And that's to cover all of these costs and my food and whatever else that I need on a regular basis, making repairs. I just had to recently get my laptop repaired. That was another $180, I think, to get a new fan replaced so that my laptop doesn't overheat. So anyway, I'm just being transparent in that. I don't really want to have to charge for anything. I like providing all I do freely. It is a lot of work to do, and I love to do it. So I want to continue doing that. But I just want to put that out there that I might need to look into other forms of income if I can't sustain myself in this way. And this, of course, will take away from the amount of time that I'm able to devote to things like this. And I'd love to maximize my time there. So what I did on my Patreon, that's such an easy way to just contribute on a regular basis, because there's lots of monthly subscriptions that you can sign up for. So I just want to highlight the Patreon and show that I just added a tier today. It's only $1.11 per month. So my humble request is that if you listen to this show, if you listen to any of the shows or just appreciate the work that I do, please consider signing up for this very, very low cost, $1.11 per month. I mean, this is change that you can probably find in your couch, things rolling around, a random item that maybe you didn't purchase at one time, that's some piece of junk or something that you don't really need. It would greatly help me to just know that, just know that I do have a steady source that I can rely upon so that I can map my costs accordingly and distribute as I need to. So that's a humble request. It's not asking a lot, but if people could contribute something like that there, that's very, very much appreciated. I do have other forms. So Give, Send, Go also offers a monthly subscription as well, if you want to do it that way. And then, of course, one-time donations in PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and otherwise. If you have another way that you'd like to contribute and are unable to use these, please let me know, and I'm sure we can find something to work out. So yeah, just a humble ask there. I appreciate everyone's considerations. I know it's not easy times, and I don't want anybody to put themselves in stress to do that. But I do feel that signing up for $1.11 a month is not really something that's going to put anybody out anywhere. So that's what I'm asking. And I will say that, I haven't really advertised this very much, but I do happily offer private consultations with people. If somebody wants to have some extra time to sit down with me and go over any topic, any which way, and it's not something that I have a hard set price on, but that is something that I ask for a reciprocal energetic exchange with it. And I will offer, a suggestion for what I typically do for 30 minutes or an hour of time. But I will say that if anybody hasn't spoken to me before privately and they'd like to just see if it's a good fit or see if you'd like to continue doing that, I'm happy to sit down for 15 minutes or so at no expectation of reciprocal cost or anything like that. So if you want to reach out to me and set up a call and we can chat for 15 minutes or so and just see if you feel like it'd be a good fit, I'm more than happy to do that. And then if we want to keep continuing talking, then we can talk about, what to set up in the future. So just wanted to offer that as well. So thank you all for the considerations there. And I often say that there are other ways that you can help contribute to the efforts that go on here, because the more that we can create a robust sort of system with the content that is made and created, the more it's going to help and reach more people. And that's really all that I want. I just want to help get this message out there, this realization that we are truly angels who've forgotten who we are, realizing our fullest and highest potential, following the Christic path. So if you'd like to contribute by helping to write notes or timestamps for the shows as we talk through things, that's a really great way that I can add that to the post and then give people a searchable way of searching through these longer winded shows. Donna Dika has done such a phenomenal job at writing these notes and timestamps. And I'm so grateful, so appreciative of her for doing that. She really invested a lot of time and effort into that. She's going to be needing to take a little step away from doing that as often just because of other priorities in her life. And I totally get it. She walked me through the process. It's a lot of work to do it the way she does, but the quality is extremely good. I'll show a post that she's done recently. She said she could do, I think, maybe one more or a couple more sets of notes. And yeah, so just want to pull up a post where she's done that. So you can see the level of detail that she puts into these. And she's using AI to help generate them, but then she has to go through and edit and make sure everything's coming out correctly and it's aligned with what was actually spoken. So it ends up being quite a bit of work. So if anybody wants to help out with that, we're talking about maybe setting up a call with people who are interested in helping out with that kind of stuff, just to go over a tutorial of how she's done it in the past and maybe explore some other tools to help make this process a lot easier so that it might not take nearly as long. But if anyone's interested in doing something like that, please reach out to me and we'll set up a time where we can meet and go over that kind of stuff. So that's very much appreciated. Definitely check out her channel, Rabbit Trails and Bunny Tails, where she posts a lot of really great things. So I really appreciate her work there as well. And yeah, so also there are ways that you can help with creating little clips and things from these shows as well. So she gave a really great idea of all the song decodes that we do at the beginning of these shows. We've done this for I've done this for over a year now. So every single episode for well over a year has had the song decodes at the beginning, and then I go over decodes at the end. So I love to do that kind of stuff. Those segments are kind of real easy to make standalone. And how powerful would that be if we could create a bunch of clips that were just playing these songs and then having a decode go over them, a breakdown of the lyrics, and then we could post that wherever. I mean, those would be short form. They could even be put on things like TikTok and wherever else. So if anybody wants to take that on, that would be super helpful. And even if you're unable to do the clips and editing and that portion of it, if you want to just go through some shows and write down the timestamp of when the song decode ends, that would be really helpful as well, because then if somebody else comes along and is able to do the actual editing, they don't have to go and search for that point where the song decode ends. So it'd just be an easier clip and breakout. So anyway, these are just ideas of ways you can help. If you aren't able to do any of those and you want to help out and maybe aren't able to commit financially, just reach out to me. I'm sure we can think of something that you can help out in whatever way. You know, this is a group effort, and I want those, especially those who've been listening for a while, I really want to put the challenge out there that while it's wonderful to learn and it's wonderful to absorb the information and absorb what's happening, as Christ taught the disciples to become fishers of men, there's a point where we need to shift that energy into creation. You know, there's a time for absorption, there's a time for listening and receiving, but then there's a time to shift towards creation and sending out and teaching. So I'm not saying that everyone needs to jump into doing the things that I do, speaking publicly or whatever. You know, I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but just finding ways to transmute this information, this gnosis, into ways to share it with others. So I've suggested Telegram channels in the past. I think it's great for everyone to create a Telegram channel and just play around with that idea. And then there are certainly other ways to help out with that too. And whether you're actually taking the lead on sending out information or you're just offering support to others who are doing that, all of that's achieving the same goal of sending out this godly goodness out to as many as we possibly can and helping out all along the way. So just a gentle challenge and nudge to consider ways that you might want to step in and help out. I've listed quite a few here, but like I said, if you have other ideas or just are curious, and I'm sure we can think of something. So anyway, thanks for hearing me out. I really appreciate that. And yeah, we'll just keep on keeping on. You know, I know the time in this version of reality is limited, but we don't know how much longer it will last. So it's important to just focus on the here and now and work with what we have. So yeah, I will go ahead and stop rambling on about all of that, but I appreciate y'all for listening. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and jump into the show today. And I am really excited to have us get started with our dear sister, if she's ready, Robyn Mason, who said she had something that she really wanted to share with us today. And I told her she could get us started off. So Robyn, if you're ready, feel free to go ahead.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay, Justin?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you so much for all of that. I do have a question, and what that's making me feel like is what I've recently been practicing is when I am coming in contact with someone, instead of, thinking something bad or thinking, what is this about? I'm thinking what we can create together. And that's exactly what I just felt when you were explaining all of that. Like, how can we create together? And that is God's true godliness. The question I had is your Patreon page. How do I get to that?
Yeah, so that's listed at the top of my links. If you go to justincarpenter.org/contribute, or click on the contribute button, it's the first link at the top. Just click on Patreon, the button or the logo, and it'll take you there. or you can go patreon.com/c/Justin Carpenter. And I think that should pop up as well, or it might even be just patreon.com/Justin Carpenter. Let me see if that works. But yeah, that's how you can find that page. Yep, that works. So patreon.com/Justin Carpenter is how you can find that page as well.
Perfect. So, by no surprise, what I kind of going to be talking about today goes right along with the songs that you picked. And you're going to see how I looked under the bridge when I wasn't using it to triumph over my addiction with alcohol. What I just encourage everyone today to think about is you're exactly where you need to be, and you're hearing this all for a reason, because Justin has no idea what I was going to talk about. He knew I was going to talk about maybe breath and addiction and my alcoholism, but he did not know that it was going to line up with the song that he played. So if you are here in this group sharing space with this, I just encourage you to maybe get curious and ask, why am I here? Maybe it's for you, maybe it's for a family member. So I did write down what I want to say. So I'm going to pretty much be reading this. I think it'll help me just to stay on track, because I think everybody knows that has heard me speak before. Public speaking is something that I'm getting really good at. That's what I'll say. It's getting easier and easier as we go along, but I feel I've been asked by the universe within myself to really start opening up through my throat chakra. And so I've decided today, I wrote down what I wanted to say, and I am going to just read through this, and I hope that it will maybe, trigger some things within you guys that will start a discussion, or that we can leave here, and it will give us something to think about that will help ourselves or somebody else. But basically, my intention today is to help anyone, even if it's just one person, by what I'm getting ready to share. This is the first time that I've shared this deeply, and kind of in that sharing also is like accountability, that this is what my life was. And I've just recently been letting my husband, I'm going through a divorce, letting my husband, my soon to be 20-year-old daughter that lived through this, and my family, meaning my mom, but I have other family, if they start hearing this, I've become more vocal on my YouTube, on this channel with Justin, and I've kind of been letting them know that my story is coming out. It's not their story. They have their story to tell. So I do want to keep in mind that to let you guys know that I'm fully aware that this is my perspective. I'm not telling my family story, my daughter's story, my husband's story. So I'm fully aware that they may have their own perspectives of how I speak on the struggles that I had, but I'm fully aware that this is mine, and I'm open to always hearing them out. And at any time that they want to revisit, in case any of them are on this call or listens to this call, that I'm always open to having empathy, because I'm sure the shoes that they walk in is not easy. And I would not want to walk in those shoes. That I'm just explaining what I can only explain truthfully and transparently, and that's my perspective of it. So from a couple of weeks ago, doing the breath and how breathing affects the dry fast, I believe I'm pronouncing it right. It's not Carrie, it's Kari's story. And when he came on and gave the powerful share of his struggle with alcohol, and Justin spoke on it last week on the Quest-i-ons. I wasn't on the call, but I was listening back to it. And that's when I when I sent a voice message to Justin and just got the urge that, or the nudge that I need to share my story and what the struggles that I went through and what I was doing, because that may help someone else. And then Justin, of course, sent me back a message and said, yeah, I think you should share this because I think it really will help others. So that's kind of what triggered all of this. And when Kari was explaining that, and Justin explained last week that he was, he had a lot of energy and was going to bars at night to socialize, and then the drinking, helped him to socialize and to feel more comfortable. I related to that because it was not so long ago that I was living the same struggle, drinking every night. I want to first start out, and Justin explained a little bit about he believes that Kari may be a generator, and that the going to the bar and socializing and drinking at nighttime. I didn't really struggle with the energy part, having a lot of energy to burn off, because as wonderful Lila and me did research into my human design, and I took that as, well, I don't want to say it's a step farther, but what's something that really resonated with me, and that I truly believe it started with Lila and the human design, is I asked God for something and he gave me the gene keys, which is Richard Rudd, if anybody would like to dip into that. And Richard Rudd was how he came into contact with the gene keys that was downloaded to him in 3 days and 3 nights of not eating, not sleeping. He was actually a student of Ra in human design. So I found out that I was a manifester. And I do agree that Kari is probably a generator, but it wasn't so much of the energy part for me. It was, and going to the bar and relaxing. Mine was the alcoholism was associated with the anxiety. And so the only time that I could relax was at nighttime, when I was having a glass of wine, having 3 or 4 beers, or having 2 or 3 absolute and waters and, lime drinks. That's when I could relax. I believe that the alcohol was numbing that, but it's all the same thing, just like as Kari going to the bar and he was trying to relax that way. I believe that the alcohol is just, it's just energy. And the anxiety and the energy that's not being burned off is just stuck energy within us. It keeps the energy, it keeps the energy from flowing freely through us. It keeps, the alcohol is just numbing all of that and keeping the thoughts that the energy is creating all day long. Which we know, everybody pretty much in this group knows, is the ego and the worrying, that you can't be yourself. And when you drink the alcohol, you think that you're able to really be yourself. But really what you're doing is you're creating more of a blockage and more stuck energy. My life is so different now, but the truth is, it was not so long ago that every day, every month, and every year that went by, oh, it makes me emotional a little bit, that I would wake up and I would say, after every holiday, after every birthday, or after every weekend, okay, when this birthday comes, when this holiday comes, I'm just going to drink every day until then. And then when that day, whether it's Labor Day, Memorial Day, whether it's my birthday, whether it's Christmas, This is the way my mind was working, that I'll stop drinking every day. I'll only drink on weekends. So in my head, my narrative was that if I could not drink during the week and I would only drink Friday and Saturday, maybe on Sunday, that I was a good person. So if I stopped drinking during the week and I would only drink on the weekends, that I would be a better person. And this went on and on and on for a very long time. But in 2020, I had my spiritual awakening. It was either in April, March of 2020. I really don't know what was happening, but I think a lot of people had this in different ways, in different forms with COVID, and starting to realize that, we weren't being told the truth. This is when I started listening to, so I'm getting into now kind of what my process was of, I didn't win over alcoholism, I triumphed over it. So this was kind of my walk in my process from the start of like 2020. I started listening to Charlie Freak, and then Justin came on board. And that was kind of when I started learning about the truth of the world and then health. And I also, and it's kind of like the conscious living, what I was doing. I was also listening to Eckhart Tolle, Bill Donahue, Santos Bonacci. I was listening, I fell in love with Florence Scovel Shinn. She is like a 1940s writer, and she talks about the game of life. So she's a lot about manifesting things. Something that I came in contact with in my early 20s was The Celestine Prophecy by Robert Redfield. So I went back into his book, which for me was a lot of wisdom. I was reading The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Milliman. And every day I was filling my mind with truth, while at night I was drinking. So I had not brought meditation in, and I wasn't trying to stop drinking. I was just every single day walking the walk, filling my head with truth, with all of this knowledge craved in. But every single night at 5 o'clock, just waiting for 5 o'clock to come, because the anxiety at this time was still there. Like it was at the forefront. That's who I was. I thought, that's who I was at that time. And every night I was just waiting for 4 or 5 o'clock to come, just to have that drink so I could be anxiety free. One thing I know about myself is that I do have a lot of drive. So that was in my favor. I knew, because of listening to Justin and Charlie Freak, that the way, I treated my body had to come and play at some point. So even though I hadn't tried to take on that challenge yet, and every day I was walking, which was my meditation, I 100% believe in getting in nature and walking. That was a life changer for me. But I wasn't ready to accomplish the taking on and not drinking. So, in about August, so I started, the spiritual awakening in 2020, about March or April. Well, about in August is when I decided to, and this was about the same time I think Justin was coming heavy with Charlie Freak, like on there all the time. And I knew that I had to get control of my eating. So that is when I cold turkey became vegan. And so now at this time, I was changing my eating habits, and I was still listening and walking, and I got heavier into yoga and breathing more and being consciously aware of when I was doing yoga, that I was changing my breathing patterns, and I was bringing that into my daily life of being consciously aware of my breath while I was walking, while I was washing the dishes, while I was shopping. all of this together started opening my body and my mind more. The eating right, just taking that step, and I was still drinking at night, but the eating right started changing my mind about how I felt about my temple and my body. Um, it was, and I just kept, like I said, I do have a strong drive. So with the eating, not eating any meat and dairy, I was driven to not do that. Um, it was around February or March, and I think it was 2021, but it could have been 2022 because all of this is a blur now. But it was when Justin did his first Telegram um, show, and he just wanted to see if he could do it. I was the first person that popped on. And it was right at the beginning of that I had just started. I was going to do a 20 day juice feast. And I think it ended up being about 22 days that I did juice only, and it was no alcohol. And during the middle of this is when you did that telegram, Justin. And the first words out of my mouth is, I've been on this journey and I've just started. I was so, like proud of myself that I had just started this juice feast and that I wasn't drinking alcohol. And what I actually told that I told Justin is that my husband was the one that couldn't stop drinking every night. So I feel that that's really interesting. While I was writing this morning, that can you see the mirror? That at that time I was throwing my husband under the bus, because now I was just probably 2 days ago drinking alcohol at nighttime, but I just started this juice feast, and I chose not to drink alcohol. Instead of saying that it was me, I said it was my husband still struggling. That, I feel, plays a big part in your journey, because that is how important accountability is. Because I did the 20 days because I have drive, and I'm that person that can be I had to, humble myself, and on this spiritual journey, many times I had to stop and realize that I was just leaving one expectation or one desire for another one, that I now was this spiritual guru of some sort, and better than somebody else. But where the change for me really lies, and I do feel for everyone else, is the accountability. But in the meantime, and this is where I want to kind of say that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and a little goes a long way. And that's kind of what I've themed this story that I'm telling you about today, is that just a little bit each day went a long way. Just like Justin's $1.11. A little goes a long way. So just by starting to get curious about my body and about the accountability, instead of just thinking I was a bad person, I just started getting curious about it, and I just started accepting things as they were. I do want to mention at this time that yes, I wasn't working, and yes, I had a drive. I had all of those things working for me because I had a lot of time. Like, I wasn't working, so all day long, I could listen to all these books and all these podcasts. And I did have all of that working for me in my favor. But what I didn't have working for me in my favor and what I had against me was my family. During this time, I was changing so much that my daughter, and when I speak about my family, I'm talking about my family, but I'm also talking about my in-laws, whose farm that I lived on, who I saw pretty much every day on the farm while I was walking, trying to heal. My daughter, who didn't know who her mom was anymore. I had no support whatsoever. I had all of that working against me. My husband, he was supporting me in the way that he was not questioning me. He was letting me be myself, and he was never asking me to be something I wasn't, or telling me that I couldn't go to Guatemala to become a breath facilitator. He was supporting me in the aspect, which was huge, that he was letting me figure this out on my own and be myself. But he was not capable of helping me to tell my family and set boundaries with my family and say, look, I'm going through a huge change and I need support. I don't need someone telling me that I'm doing it wrong. Things were changing in my life. I'm just going to start reading again. My whole belief system. And I can have empathy for those people that I did feel that weren't supporting me and that I still do not have contact with and that still do not support me. I know that their journey is also difficult. And I feel love for all of them because I know at this time that they were just playing a role. They are still playing that same role in my life. But I want all of you to understand that I, along with a lot of you on this call, have lost all of that to become the new me. And I did it just by a little bit each day. So my life was changing pretty quickly. I was gaining so much knowledge, which was resonating with the wisdom I already had inside. I was being asked by the universe to stop being the people pleaser and to start speaking truth and asking for my relationships to find a better way. I was asking these people that were supporting me, the people around me that didn't like it, I was asking them to find a better way and find that way through love, which they were not ready to do. Now, I do want to mention also what I added on to my practices during this time was Reiki, and I also added on intracranial therapy or cranial sacral therapy, which is just touching of the body. And when I was doing all of this, and I had stopped drinking as much, I still was drinking, listening to Justin every day, doing the show with him and Darth and Colleen, telling my story about me and my daughter. I was still drinking, but it was lessening. And I was doing a little bit of outside things such as Reiki or cranial therapy. So if you do have access and the financial, ability to do some of that, I would definitely suggest that as well. But this is when I kind of like started learning to go within and what that meant. I had heard so many people say that, but it was at this time, about a year or two in, when I started realizing what it meant to go within. And the synchronicities were happening more. So I knew that this was what I was doing was right. And that kind of goes along with a little goes a long way, because as long as you are doing a little bit, God is going to show you the path. And also, it is true. You get what you put in. So Justin always says you're going to get the amount that you put in, the work that you put in, that's what you're going to get out. So all of that was really showing itself. I do want to say at this time, I was only doing breath work in the morning, which was controlling the anxiety better, but I had not started any form of meditation and going silent in my mind. I was just so if anybody wants to try what I'm doing or follow along with what I was doing, it was pretty much the breath work in the morning, the yoga, and the walking, and filling my mind with knowledge, listening to Justin and all the podcasts and reading books. Um, Another thing that really helped me was mantras. Every week, or whatever resonated with me, I was putting mantras on my phone. I was putting mantras up in my house. So just a few examples of the mantras that I was doing was, my breath is my anchor is my breath. So when I could start, I was going within. I started getting to be friends with my nervous system, so I could start kind of telling when the anxiety at this time was stopping, because I was having more anxiety than I was not having anxiety. So these mantras, if anxiety would start ramping up really big, or in the mornings, I would just start with mantras. I am exactly where I should be. Life is for me, not against me. My body is working for me, not against me. Those helped me so much, and I did them daily. Um, this is also about the same time that I went to Guatemala, and I was still, I kind of phrased it as this little people pleaser, this little anxiety girl going all by herself to another country. Um, I was starting to do big things. But during this time when I went to Guatemala with my family and with my community, which I can't come from, I am very highly, or was, I should say I was very highly religion programmed. And just remember, the journey is a spiral, not linear. And literally, just through this divorce, and like at the beginning of the year, I was going through again, and I started really realizing how the religious programming was so heavy in me. So when I went to Guatemala, because I was not going to Guatemala on a mission trip, my community started becoming judgmental and against me. And literally, I was going out in the community to the grocery store, to the convenience store, and people would go in a different aisle. These are people I sat in Sunday school and taught a Sunday school lesson to. They were not wanting to speak to me. My family, that is also very religiously programmed, they did not understand why I was going to Guatemala, and they wanted no part of it. But in this turn, I started changing the way that I looked at my alcohol. And I started praising the alcohol for helping me, and being curious about why I needed it. What was I dealing with inside of me and within? I started asking God, why did I need this to feel at peace? So around this time is where I started asking God what I needed and why was this happening. And that led me to Aaron Apke and 40 University. So I'm just going to put that out there. That's for y'all to go research. It definitely continues to change my life and has helped me. But this is where I want to talk about my addiction and what really helped me to triumph over my addiction. This is where Aaron introduced the concept of letting the body do what it does, not being in conflict with the body, not forcing the body to do the right thing and to ignore the urges. So instead of like forcing the body when I wasn't ready, because there was many, many times that I spent Monday through Thursday, or really, and me and my husband did this together. It was really like Monday through Wednesday of not drinking and being so proud of myself because Monday through Wednesday I hadn't drank, that I made it till 5 o'clock on Thursday and I could have a drink. I mean, sitting here right now saying this, it sounds so crazy, but that's what I was doing inside of my body. And this is the first time that I've really talked about this in depth. And anybody that's going through this right now, like, I was there. That was me. You're not alone. That was me. And whether it's alcohol, gambling, sex, shopping, smoking, it's all the same. So introducing that fact of like, okay, it was one lesson that I was going through, and I mean lesson as far as Aaron teaching a lesson in the university. And it's a lesson about yoga versus boga. And this is it's in India, and it's an Hinduism belief system. And I'm going to tell you about what the belief system is. So the yogi, the belief system is that you're either a yogi, everyone is either a yogi or a bogey. And the yogi is the practice that you are intentionally seeking God union. So through this life, you are intentionally reading your Bible, going, whatever it is through, whether it's yoga, through going through a walk. And Justin can probably speak on this a lot more too, as well. But it's where you're intentionally seeking God union, the oneness. Or what I'm going to be heavily talking about today is the bogey way. And that is about where most of us fall. And that is where we unintentionally are seeking God union through material desire. So as a human being in this belief system in India, it's that you're one or the other. And most of us are falling into the category that we are unintentionally seeking this, and we're seeking it through our desires. We are unintentionally trying to find peace in our body, and we're doing this by material things. This is definitely me. I did not realize that I was seeking God's union through the desire through alcohol. Because that is the only true desire. Well, the only true desire for all of us is God's union, and I was doing it through alcohol. It is to be one, not to be separate. The desire for peace and joy that is beyond understanding. Aaron describes it as the desires or the attachments that are in the body that are very subtle and minor. So the ones that are very subtle and minor, they can be transcended through yoga and actively seeking God. But it's through non-resistance. It's these subtle desires that we can overcome that way. But the intense desires, the intense urges, we can transcend those desires through yoga. And what that means is exhausting the karma by fulfilling it. This does not mean running into the bar, drinking every night, thinking that it's going to make you happy. So you are trying to fulfill the desire in yourself by doing it. So example, I would not try to just stop drinking every night anymore, or to stop drinking Monday through Thursday and then pick it up on the weekends. I started confronting the drinking every night by asking it, is this giving me peace? So I would literally be drinking beer, drinking liquor, whatever, wine, whatever the choice was. And I started getting curious and asking the drink, like literally looking at the beer bottle and being like, okay, I'm drinking this. What is my intention of drinking this? I'm drinking this because I want to find peace. So are you giving me peace? I would start asking it and start getting curious instead of thinking I'm a bad person because of this. I would be like, let's see, is this true? Is what the ego promising true to me? Does the intense karma do what it's promising to do and actually give me peace? Does it fulfill me? Let's put the ego to the test. So that's kind of what I'm telling y'all. If anybody's dealing with this, start putting your ego thoughts to the test. The ego keeps telling me that the alcohol is going to calm me and make me happy. And normally it would start doing this about 2 or 3 o'clock in the evenings. And I would start about 2 or 3 o'clock in the evening. The ego would start telling me, okay, if you just make it till 5 o'clock. So no matter what happened, no matter if my daughter was leaving home, if my family wasn't talking to me, if I had passed my in-laws while I was walking and they stopped talking to me and wouldn't stop and talk to me because they thought I was a bad person. Well, let's see if it's true. At 5 o'clock, I get to drink. And let's see if I can find peace there. So I would start asking myself these questions. Let's drink and see if I'm happy. Let's go through the experience and enjoy the high instead of being at conflict with it. So instead of every day thinking I was a bad person because I was drinking, I was like, okay, I'm going to start experiencing it. I'm going to start loving this high. I'm going to start really living this person as drinking every single night. And I'm going to embrace it. Just asking the questions, is this happiness to me? Am I at peace? Peace. Just inquire, is this really what I came here for? Is this my purpose in life? Or is this just a moment? And then I'm back to all the same problems the next morning. Really thinking about this and really embracing this. And this is where I found the power in Boga. Because every morning, or even not even in the morning, maybe when I was going to bed, I couldn't sleep because I knew that it wasn't bringing me true happiness. I was finding out that what the ego was telling me was a lie. it was really proving to my mind that that part of me, this is empty. This is not bringing me closer to peace. That it is now not what I want for my life. So my mind actually started calming down because I was giving it truth. And that's what the mind needs to overcome an addiction. I was proving to my mind that you're wrong. My mind was constantly being faced each night I drank that it cannot give me what I want. This outcome cannot give me anything that I want. I started to realize that this outcome is not what I want. I kept showing that to my mind, and I noticed that the desire started to wane. It started little by little to kind of go away. In my experience, it felt hard until all of a sudden it started to feel effortlessly. I can't really pinpoint to you guys when it was, but it just started like to become effortlessly. An example of this would be it's kind of like a dysfunctional relationship. When you break up at first, you're going back and forth like, I miss this person. I love this person. You love them, but you know it's bad for them. Eventually with that struggle, like I love them, but I know it's bad. I love them, but I know they're mentally or physically or emotionally abusing me. But eventually, your mind gets tired and it just starts dropping it. It starts to move on. Just like in a relationship, you start to say, okay, I'm going to wish them well. And then all of a sudden, you're not thinking about it every single day. At that point, it no longer takes effort to not think about them, and you just move on. This is what happened. I just started not thinking about alcohol. I began to realize I was depending on something external for my happiness, when really my happiness was within me. The more I realized the happiness was available within me, right here and now, the more I did not even think about 5 o'clock. I started naturally losing desire for alcohol. I did not have to give it up. It started giving itself up when I started seeing it for what it really was. As I'm writing this, I'm thinking about the mother that came on about holistic healing. Oh, wait, hold on. Now I know what I'm talking about. So the mother, as I'm writing this, I started thinking about the mother last week or either the week before. I can't remember. It's been a couple of weeks now, but she came on and she wanted to know holistic ways for helping her child with vaping. You know, it's really like we can bring this to people, like to ask that child, why are you vaping? Not to try to get the child to stop vaping, but to just start asking that child, why are you vaping? Is it really helping you the way that you're helping it? It's also like when you're holding tight to something because you feel like I was the alcoholism, because I was holding on to it so tight. Like I would like say some people $100 bill. You're like, I'm not going to help give. I'm not going to give this to Justin. I'm not going to, to help him to keep helping other people on his internet channel. I'm going to hang on to this $100 bill as long as I can, until somebody comes to me and they say, if you give me that $100 bill, I'll give you $1 billion. Well, then I'm ready to just freely give it up. So quickly, I'm ready to freely give it up. Excuse me. This is what our being does when it sees that you can get peace freely, anytime, any day, available to you within yourself. This peace is absence of material desires. It shines when there is no material desire. This is what really catapulted or launched my spiritual journey to my higher self. This is where I started looking deeply into my attachments. Every attachment, you're attached to an outcome. Like me, I have to stop drinking on the weekdays because I will be a better person. So it's the outcome, the attachment to it, and the outcome to it. And if I could just be a better person, then my family will love me more. The community will love me more. People will start talking to me when I go into the community again. The people that I went to church with, they'll start talking to me more. But what actually is happening is the attachment to the outcome is what's blocking you from manifesting or getting to your true self. And thank you so much for listening to me. And I'm just sitting here, it's coming in my mind right now that like things that Darth have said, I know that he has poetically expressed this so much better than me. But I'm going to rest in the peace and knowing that the way that I'm explaining it today, that it's going to reach just, even if it's just one person, that it's going to ignite just one soul to start looking at their life different and their attachment to outcomes. If we realize that the universe is self-organizing and self-correcting, when we physiologically suffer, the universe will seek to correct itself in self-perception until what we seek and perceive, what makes us happy, we will continue to suffer. So when we continue to seek an attachment and an outcome, that's where you're going to continue to suffer. When you start going within and start changing the way you look at things, it is then that the universe will give us a big thumbs up, and we will see it correcting itself. So the synchronicities will start getting bigger. You will start seeing your journey going 4 steps ahead and then maybe just 1 step backwards instead of 4 steps ahead and 4 steps backwards, which is like the hamster wheel. That's where the hamster wheel is. Once the way we relate to reality does not cause us to suffer anymore, we know we are perceiving it correctly. So when the suffering, because it's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a spiral, it's not linear. They may keep coming back, but the more that we keep moving back into alignment, you're going to see the synchronicities get bigger and bigger. So this really was the biggest practice that helped me to triumph over my addiction. Every day, step by step, I did my practices, and eventually my attachments were falling off. A little goes a long way. 1 step forward each day. So in any moment that you are experiencing psychological conflict, it is in that moment that the universe is telling you that you're not in alignment and to correct yourself, to come back into alignment with who you are. You have to catch those moments where you're struggling and start loving those moments. And that's kind of what I think it means by going and looking under the bridge. That when he played that song and when he started interpreting it today, and the first thing he says is when you stop using the bridge to go over and you look under it, it just hit me. And I'm like, that's exactly what I was doing. Suffering is God's way to course correct us. You are not in alignment with truth. Just start getting curious about it with no guilt, no shame. Stop saying to yourself, I know I'm a horrible person, but I'm going to drink this beer. You got to stop having the guilt or shame and really start thanking the addiction and saying, what are you about? Getting curious about the addiction. Thank you so much for listening to me and my story. You all are holding space for me to grow. And I hope that it's through my trials and tribulations that I can help your growth. I want to use my journey, my suffering, and overcome my overcoming to just help others. This is not about me, but rather about being the conduit, allowing God to flow through me. And what I mean by that, it's like, it's not about me just getting on here and trying to overcome public speaking so I can become more successful. Like, yes, that is helping me. And yes, that is a beautiful thing, but that's not what this is about to me. This is about facing my fears and allowing God to just flow through me so I can help someone else. And what I just want to say before we open this up to sharing or discussion, or maybe it just stays here, is this is what the Beauty of Breath is about for me, my company. I want to help people not just by breath, because that was a modality that helped me. And I want to help people get connected with their breath and breathing better, because yes, it is my passion. And I believe our breath is our spirit. It's that stillness, finding that stillness that is the true connection of consciousness. But it also allows the barriers to break down. But what it really is about to me is teaching people to connect body, mind, and spirit, and empowering people like things such as Boga to learn how do you connect body, mind, and spirit. I believe Justin teaches us how to learn how to do that through fasting. You know, each one of us can find our gift to bring to the symphony that will help each of us learn how to connect body, mind, and spirit. I believe it's all of those things together that we can really truly walk this journey and find the synchronicities more. Find where we're suffering less. And God is showing us that we're more aligned with life. That's all I want to do with the Beauty of Breath, is I want to help people connect body, mind, and spirit, and help those suffering moments become a little less and to start healing. So I encourage each one of you, if you know anybody or anyone, to feel free to reach out to me. And don't let money be an issue. Just like Justin said, you know, encourage them to listen to Quest-i-ons, to give $1.11 a month to continue to be invested in themselves on their and her healing journey, but they're also investing in other people because of what he's doing and letting God flow through him. And together, we can all co-create. So that's where I'll leave it. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Robyn. Thank you for that amazing share, the testimony, and some of the ways and things that you were speaking on really shows the level of growth that you've gone through to be able to articulate and voice them. You know, it shows the real work within that. And yeah, I mean, so many things came up as you were speaking. One of them being the some of the things that we've gone through in the Gospel of Thomas. First one being, you can't serve two masters. You know, if we're not serving one, we're inevitably serving the other. So if we're always looking for something in the external to bring us that happiness or bring us that peace, even if our intentions seem good, if they're centered in the external, then it will inevitably fail. That is the path to death. The only way to maintain that life is to bring that back within, to bring it back in that internal process. And then, of course, the external falls into place. It's the effect. But if we're focused solely on the effect, then we never shift the cause. We never get to the root cause. Yeah, so that was big. And then you also mentioned, you know, just the relationship with your family and the dynamics within that and how that's transitioned in a lot of ways, and just reminds me of the two verses from yesterday. And do want to apologize if you listen to the recording. There's quite a bit that's garbled. We do plan on going back and doing, I'm going to go back and listen and see which verses we need to redo, but we'll plan on reviewing the ones that didn't come through correctly. Cause yeah, you know, I just take that as an invitation. God wants us to really go deep on these verses. So we'll redo those. But verse 68 and 69 from the Gospel of Thomas, Yeshua said, "Blessed are you when they hate you and persecute you. There's a place where you are not persecuted that they will never find. Blessed are those who have been persecuted in their hearts, for they have known the Father in truth. Blessed are those who are hungry, for they will be fulfilled." So it's through, I get God bumps just reading those verses, because it's so powerful to recognize that inevitably, as we walk on this path and start to come back to ourselves, start letting go of attachments in the external to those whom we used to be, you know, who are still conditioned towards this attachment to the external, we will look very foreign, alien to them, and that can lead to that persecution, that can lead to that rejection. You know, and he also says, "Show me the stone rejected by the builders, that is the cornerstone," verse 66. So it's all part of the process to really refining ourselves to being that powerful, courageous tool for God to wield and for that divine influence to flow through. That's part of the process, is going through that rejection and persecution. So because what that does is it naturally proves who's still basing their reality off of the external, off of someone else's perception of me, my identity, my persona, my reputation. If that is more important to me than this path, then I'm making that my God. That's the false idol. And again, you can't serve two masters. So it naturally, without any oversight from any individual, any organization to say, oh, you've passed this level or done this or that, it naturally refines those who are ready for that next step, to courageously say, nothing else matters to me. No material thing matters to me over this process. And of course, it's not a one and done thing. It's not like we just snap our fingers and we're in that state always. It's a process. It's an ebb and flow. Some moments we're better at it, and some moments we're we fall a bit more, and that's okay. But as long as our commitment is to get back on the path, then we will. And it's through that commitment, that's the sort of first step into starting to let go of these attachments, as you spoke of, and part of the sort of tricky part of letting go of attachments, as you spoke of, is we can get attached to the letting go of attachments. We can get attached to this elevated state of being that we want to be. We can get attached to divine connection, that I have to have this, or I have to do this in this way and achieve this on this timeline, or I have to meditate in this particular stance or this way X amount of hours, or I have to abandon these habits or things that I've grown accustomed to. And if I don't do these things, then I shame myself and beat myself up because I haven't reached there. Well, it's not really letting go of attachments. We're just shifting the attachment from one thing to another, which doesn't really help. It might seem like it. And from the sort of purely egoic mental perspective, that's what we're supposed to do, or at least what we've been conditioned to do. But you can't take heaven by force. So the only way that we actually transcend and let go of those attachments is to let go of the attachment that it has to look a certain way, that it has to be on a certain timeline, or that I have to do these particular set of actions in order to achieve that. Now, diligence is a virtue. So there are times where we can push ourselves to, making, as she mentioned, taking that step forward. So it's not to abandon ourselves to slothfulness. There is very much a virtuous behavior of diligence. However, the catch-22 of that is that aim for diligence leads to a self-loathing, or we're beating ourselves up and shaming ourselves for not doing something. That's counterproductive. So, as always, balance is key. So in those moments where we can push ourselves and where we're not using these shaming, blaming black spells, that's what they are. And black spells are never going to help in the long run. They might give the appearance, if we guilt somebody into doing something, a child or someone we know to do something, yeah, they might shift that behavior for a moment. But if it's fueled by guilt and shame, that doesn't last. So true change comes from when we were able to harmoniously step forward, and letting go in the process comes naturally. But that's why I'm so consistent with my perspective on things like addiction, reframing our mindset, getting away from the shame guilt model of beating ourselves up when we do something, but instead, as Robyn beautifully spoke on, to just come back to that observation, consciously observe where I am. And that's the starting point. And so we might start doing that. And if we're using drinking as an example, I might start to observe, consciously be with myself when I choose to drink. But that has a slippery slope as well if we're not careful, and we start to use that black magic against ourselves. So we start to use that shame and guilt. So we're observing our actions. We're becoming more conscious of our behavior. But then we might be falling backwards by using that shame and guilt. And so even if we shame and guilt ourselves enough to where I don't do that particular action, it's not actually, the root cause isn't actually addressed. I've just swept it under the rug. So yeah, the true healing comes from just sitting with it, being with it, and loving ourselves through the whole process, and trusting that whatever timeline is required to move through that is okay. Whatever sort of behaviors, of course, within reason, we're attempting to limit the harm caused to others, ahimsa. So do no harm, but outside of that, whatever behaviors we might find ourselves doing, even if we don't feel like they're aligned with where we want to be, just be mindful of that attachment of this idea that I have to do this in this particular way in order to achieve this. Because that ends up stunting our growth, even if it gives the appearance of doing it for the short term. Long term, we end up falling back. So we can look at this in any example, any way of life, whether it's the food journey, beating ourselves up for eating this or that, or our relationship with substances, or whatever, insert any activity, anything that we do. Just be gentle with ourselves. And like I've said before, shift that mindset towards addiction, towards a space of gratitude. This was a tool that I found for this time in order to help take the edge off of the traumatizing reality that we found ourselves in. So thank you, alcohol, for providing me with some comfort in that time. Thank you, whatever food item, for giving me some comfort in this time where I was so overwhelmed and I didn't know any other way. Shift that to that gratitude. And then slowly the edge becomes less sharp, and the pull towards using those things becomes less of a need. And we get to lay them down gently and thank them for their service, thank them for that time. And say, but I no longer need you anymore. I'm not drawn to that. I've certainly found that doing that in my life has made everything so much simpler and easier, and things just fade away. The attachments just slowly start to drift off in their own time, in their own way. And that's as Robyn mentioned, the difference between a marathon and a sprint. There's no destination to race to. There's no status to acquire. It's simply just a gentle process of rediscovery, remembering. And yeah, that's, it's where, like, sharing our various journeys and the paths that we've walked and the tools that we've acquired and the things that we've learned, it's so beautiful and so helpful. And I would also urge caution to not have that turn into a comparison game as well. Like, oh, just because Robyn experienced this, then if I'm not experiencing this, then I must be doing something wrong. Just because Justin speaks of it in this way, if I don't get it in this, if this doesn't sink in, or if I'm still doing X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to beat myself up until I do. So balance is key. The middle path. We can listen and observe to other stories and have that embody and shift things within our perspective. But just careful not to create attachments out of that based on what I perceive others might be doing, whether better than or worse than. It doesn't matter. That's the risk of speaking about the Christic path, and why many higher orders did require initiations to go through and learn various topics, because there's risk involved in just sharing them to anyone who hasn't done a significant amount of work within themselves. And I trust that the community that has stuck with me for this length of time for whatever length of time you've been following, it certainly has had its various challenges to overcome, and moments, refining moments, to see that those who are really here are really dedicated to this. And I trust that. And it comes across with whom I speak to, and how we interact, and the energy that exists within the space, even when words are not spoken. So I just want to give out a humble thanks, humble gratitude for all of you for stepping in and doing the work to get to this space. Because I know how much work it takes. And we wouldn't be in the same space together if you were not doing the same work that I was doing. And I know I've done a lot of work. So thank you. So thank you again, Robyn, for the beautiful words spoken. And yeah, I'm happy to pass it off and see if anybody else wants to jump in on that topic or take us any which direction. You're more than welcome. Yeah, go ahead, Darth. I see your mic is open, but we're not hearing anything. Yeah, I just keep seeing it toggling on and off, but no sound is coming through. Okay, he hopped off. Maybe he's hopping back on.
Okay, I'm back. How about now?
Now, loud and clear.
Okay. I just wanted to say to Robyn that I thoroughly enjoyed hearing her dialogue and hearing about her experiences. And as a teacher, it is very rewarding to hear students put ideas that they've learned in their own words, and not simply repeating something, word for word, but to really demonstrate that they understand the concepts involved. And as she was going along and recounting her experiences, I was just in the back of my head, just kind of ticking off, yep, she's got that idea right. And oh, yep, she understands this concept. And oh, yeah, she's applying this spiritual principle correctly in her life. And she's just really put it in her own words and put her own personality into it. And I'm confident that she'll be able to teach others what she's learned. And I just really enjoyed it. I was really honored to it was a really good feeling hearing her express all those ideas correctly. And yeah, it was a really good experience listening to that. And I would enjoy hearing other people also expressing their own personal life experiences. So it was good time spent. And Robyn, thank you for sharing, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Robyn, I see your mic is open, but we're not hearing anything.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we can hear you.
I just want to say thank you so much, Darth. I have never forgotten when I did that first time with you and Colleen and Justin, and Darth said to me, I feel like I was all over the place with anxiety in my story. And Darth was like, I'm so excited to see where you're going, and here we sit, 2 years later, and he's telling me, thank you. It was time well spent. Darth is someone that unlocked a lot of doors for me. The very first presentation that he did with the whiteboard, I have notes. I've left all of these notes for my daughter for one day. Maybe she'll read them. I would sit and I have notebooks and notebooks of listening to Darth and Justin, and I'm leaving them for my daughter. So when she's ready, she can read them. So Darth, thank you. That absolutely means the world to me.
Oh, you're very welcome. I actually do the same thing for my children. And that's actually part of why I've gone down this path, trying to express these ideas so systematically, because my children, sometimes they listen, but sometimes they don't. And it's always nice when I catch them repeating something I have a son. Sometimes he mocks me a little bit, and that's fine. That's our relationship. But then sometimes I hear him expressing these ideas to his friends or to his mother, and it's like, and that's just a really rewarding experience because all of us, we our personas don't necessarily have destinies, but these ideas, these spiritual concepts, do have destinies, and then we attach ourselves to the ideas and they get carried along to the destiny of the idea. And so when I see people attaching themselves to a higher positive spiritual principle, and then seeing that principle exert force in their life and change things and make things better for them, that's just the best feeling in the world, really. And so there's a saying that, when the student is ready, the master or the teacher will appear, and then when the student is ready, that teacher will disappear and the student becomes the teacher. So that's kind of the circle. And so I know that there's going to be many people in the future that will be listening to your words, and maybe you'll be aware of it or maybe you won't. But either way, that's how we move forward into a better future. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, beautifully said, Darth, and agreed completely. It's very fitting. I didn't know exactly what Robyn was going to be sharing today and the depth that she was going to go into, but it's very fitting, as I had just right before that, sort of given a little nudge to, have us all consider maybe ways that we can step into and use our voice. And again, I don't mean that needs to be specifically using your voice. Sometimes it's in writing, or as I mentioned, sometimes it's in support of others who do find it within their voice to communicate that out. So now that Robyn is stepping into and actually using her voice, finding ways to support her in that mission, if you feel an alignment there, it's so beautiful. But there are so many wonderful souls out there who support in so many ways, like I mentioned Carol and the wonderful notes that she's written, and she's so supportive in so many different ways, both with her time and effort and financially as well. Tracy, just to, you are, I love how supportive you are. She writes a comment. She likes literally every single post on every single social media thing out there. Just that consistent support, that time and effort, when I know, financially it might be not in her time to be able to give in that way. And I know that, and I don't expect that at all, but for her to reciprocate that by being so supportive and giving her time to comment on things, because this does help to, shift the algorithm so that this message can reach a wider audience. So thank you, Tracy, for that. And, I could go on. I mean, Cheryl, you are just an angel, and that has been such a pillar for me for so long, financially and otherwise. Roseanne, same to you, just have been so incredible for so long, and so many others. I'm just looking at this list, and I'm just so in love with all of you for stepping up and doing that. So any which way that I can support, if you want, help with setting up Telegram channels or YouTube pages or doing live streams or anything that I've done, I'm always down to help out with that kind of stuff. I see Sarah H on here as well. I mean, she's been really stepping up with sharing wonderful videos on making delicious raw living foods and coming back to health and making things creative and attractive and all of that. So you all are so beautiful. And so I'm just encouraging you to find that thing, that niche, that thing that makes your heart soar, and what you love to do to help support any which way. Just step into that a bit deeper, and don't get attached to that idea, and don't start shaming or blaming yourself if you don't find yourself called in this moment. Of course, it's okay, and it's all in divine timing. So I want to throw that disclaimer out there, but also throw a little healthy nudge in that direction as well, to find that voice and find that space. So yeah, thank you all for being here, and thank you again, Robyn, for this wonderful beginning portion of this show as we roll through it. So yeah, I'll just pass it off and see if anybody has any questions or comments or things you want to share, either on this topic, what we've spoken on, or you're more than welcome to shift us into a whole new direction. There's no topics or anything that is off limits. This is a wide open space to be. So you're more than welcome to jump in. All right. Well, I have a few offline questions that we can jump to. So the first one I got was from Arsalan Rahimi in the JC family chat. He said, "Can you tell me why I keep seeing 1111 for around 5 years almost, and I can't figure this out?" He says, "I know the meaning of it, but what's the message can be for me? I think I'm going mad." So you're not going mad. The way that the way the divine connects with us, of course, it happens in infinite number of ways. But one of the most consistent ways, at least in my life, has been through numbers, because this is like a pattern that's always showing up. And when we are, we can be a bit time obsessed in this time bound portion of reality that we find ourselves in, where Kronos, the god of time, Saturn, as some call, is more governing in a lot of ways. So we can often, we always have clocks and things around us and be fixated on the clocks, and we're always looking at the clocks. And so the divine knows where our attention is. And so if the divine's going to send us a message, it's going to send us a message through these avenues. And so seeing 1111 to me is, and of course you can look into the sort of numerology behind that number. 11 simply is a master number for the sacred masculine, the divine father. It's representative of the two temples, which are right here, the 11. And so 1111 is just going to be that magnified. The double effect just means it's more emphasized. And then the what I get out of that whenever I see it, and I do see it quite a lot, to me, it just feels like a very warm, loving embrace. It'll come at really magical moments too, where I might have fallen into some layer of doubt or worry or anything in that capacity. And then I'll look up and I'll see that, and I'll be like, oh, it's all good. Let go and let God. So I feel that sort of warm, loving embrace of the divine in those moments to say, it's all okay. You're going in the right direction. I'm still here. I'm still with you. So that's what always draws me to whenever I see those kind of things, the 333, the 222, the 111, the 1111, any powerful numbers like that, 351. Learning gematria is really fun to add more layers to those divine nods, because especially with your name, like Justin comes to 93, Justin Carpenter comes to 193, and I see those numbers all the time. So it's just the divine calling me by name. So I'd encourage anyone to really know your name's gematria as another way for the divine to send you a little message and say, hey, we're with you. We got you. So yeah, that's just a simple answer there. And I will just pass it off again and see if anyone else wants to jump in. All right. Oh, go ahead, Lila.
Hey guys, I'm driving, so I'm not sure if the sound will be good, but I just wanted to say that I also received that. I also received my birth time, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock. And I'm really glad that you spoke to this in this recording. I also just wanted to say that I'm so grateful to Robyn for sharing so intimately and vulnerably about her story a little bit more. It was really brave and courageous to go into that and take accountability at this point for ways that she was sort of scapegoating her husband. I don't mean to laugh at it. I just mean like it does seem to be to some extent human nature, and sometimes we can't even see it where we're sort of doing that. So I thought that was really courageous and brave, and I just wanted to say thanks, Robyn. Thank you.
I love you, Lala.
Yeah, thanks, Lila. And I see Beth. Raise your hand. Go ahead, Beth.
Hey, Justin. Does it sound okay? I'm in my car.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's the answer. I'll join on my car always. I just wanted to hop on. I was vacuuming while I was listening, so I couldn't get on sooner. But wow, I just want to say thanks so much, especially Robyn. I've really been drawn to everything that you've shared so far. So giving of your services, more or less, with the breath work. I've been using is it the Central Channel, that one, a lot. And I was just really happy to hear you come on today. And then I was just really moved by everything that you shared. Like Lila said, the level of vulnerability and intimacy, it really spoke to me. I've shared before that I have had about 20 years experience with 12-step fellowships, and those types of shares were pretty common, but it's so like refreshing and inspiring to feel that same sort of willingness and openness coming into the spaces that serve me now, because that's what I crave is connecting with others on that level. And I could relate so much to your story with the alcohol, and I too have been able to overcome that and a lot of other things. But like you said, it's just something outside of ourself. Once I got away from labeling it, as a particular substance, or then it was the behaviors and it was the thought patterns. But wow, it's really good to hear you share, and I'm really inspired too by what you shared about just your navigating more public speaking and that sort of thing, because that's something too that I've been working on. So you give me courage, and I really, really appreciate everything that you shared. And of course, Justin, thank you always for hosting and providing this space for us. And hi to Lila too. I heard you share. I think that's everybody I heard sharing, but anybody who's listening, thanks for being here, and keep me in your prayers, because I'm preparing for a little bit of travel, and that always gets me a little wound up in my nervous system. So I don't want to speak that over myself, but I'm already getting that sensation. So anyway, I'm really glad that I decided to tune in today instead of all these other tasks that I'm doing in preparation for the trip, because I feel way more grounded than when I got on here. So you guys have done a great job of helping hold space for me today, and just being out there, knowing that we're all in this collectively. And yeah, so that's it. I don't want to ramble, and I'm driving, so love you guys, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Yeah, talk about another one who's really stepping into her power. Beth is doing some really incredible work, and I'm excited to see how that transforms and develops. Of course, when the timing's right, no rush at all. But yeah, thanks, Beth. Thanks for being here, and sending you all sorts of calming, relaxing, peaceful vibes, as this trip is going to be wonderful, magnificent, and yeah, just just sending all that your way, all that goodness and love your way. So bless you, sister. yeah, is there anyone else who wants to jump in either on anything we've shared or take us in a new direction? You are more than welcome. All right. Well, here's another question I've got, and this one is from our lovely Freebird. And I'm just going to summarize the question. She was asking about a particular guy sharing stuff about UFOs and orbs, seeing orbs, floating orbs, and just asking about that, and sort of saying that she's seen some flying vessels, and so just asking, what those are. And of course, the guy she was referencing was kind of leaning more towards the alien stuff, which, as many know, I don't really. Yeah. So I'll just get into. I gave her a response, but just to verbalize it and go further. So the consciousness can manifest in infinite number of ways, and especially layers of consciousness that are kind of like on the line of physical and metaphysical, like light beings. We can call them angels or angles of light. Of course, they can show up as glowing orbs, and they often do. I've seen many examples of people seeing these things and catching them on camera and seeing them physically. In some lore, they're called fairies, or but it's all the same. It's a layer of consciousness that's interacting with this physical realm, and it's all you. So it's nothing separate from you. It's simply the playful nature of this creation, and the observation of the most magnificent experience ever, which is this. This is the culmination of the conscious experience in this realm, in this way. So, of course, all eyes are going to be here, because here is all that there is. And here is this continually expanding experience where we're bringing the metaphysical, the unmanifest, and we're manifesting it physically, and just witnessing the transformation that happens within that and the magic that's behind that. So seeing light beings or angels move about in that way, of course they're there. They're very real. Now, I don't ascribe to the theories that people put out there of them being, fragments of some far off distant planet or other species or things of that nature. If we want to conceptualize other forms of consciousness as other aliens, if we want to call them Pleiadians or Andromedans or whatever, we are more than able to do that. And because it's all reflective on our internal reality, if that's our belief, then it becomes more real in that sense. And if it's a commonly held belief, then it becomes even more real in a sense, in the way that nothing is really real and everything is real. So it's like, it's hard to limit that. But as far as there being like, I'm just cautious of it, because the narrative that we are on this insignificant little speck tucked away at the corner of the universe, this hurling rock floating through space, flying at impossible speeds that no one can seem to feel, and we could be wiped out by an asteroid or at any moment, or the sun could just be, it's this huge thing that could just blow up and we're screwed, or aliens could come from somewhere and dominate us and we're screwed. All of that is part of the same lie told to us, the most debilitating, damaging lie, arguably, which makes us feel small and powerless and disconnected. So that's why I don't really ascribe to those narratives, because I see the intent behind why those might have been pushed initially. And so I don't ascribe to them, because to me, I find them quite harmful. And I've seen the harm caused in others who do go down that rabbit hole for whatever. It doesn't lead anywhere beneficial. It just leads to this sort of hierarchy of, oh, these aliens are better than us, so we need them to save us. And these aliens are also more powerful than us, but they're here like, the reptiles eating our children or whatever. All of that leads to a sense of powerlessness. And then it creates this same sort of religious structure of, oh no, I'm a starseed, and I'm the only one who can contact this particular race of beings that can help us. So you need to send your messages to me, and then I'm going to disseminate what I hear. That's the priest class. So we don't need to be creating new religions, even if we don't think we're creating religions. As soon as we start to create this hierarchy and this control scheme, it becomes a control scheme. Whether it was intended to be that or not, when it was created, that's what it can turn into. So that's why Christ was continuously warning against that. We're not here to create religions. It's about stepping into oneself. And if we want to manifest a reality that, we're like, there's no limitation for what we can bring into and manifest within this space. But we won't do it effectively through that way. That just breeds a small and powerless reality where we're at the whims of whomever else. So that's why I don't ascribe to that kind of stuff. And then on the topic of UFOs, flying vessels that seem more physical, substantive, those are very much real. But they're not aliens piloting them. They're often people, or they might be unmanned drones. But this is all, Area 51 isn't where they're working on alien technology. It's ancient technology. It's our old technology that was seemingly lost for however long, being rediscovered, brought back into this. Nikola Tesla was a huge influence on bringing ancient technology back to the forefront. But so many others have been working and are still working on things like that. And so, like anything that you're creating, you do test it, and they are often doing that. And so you have these hotspot zones where people see these sort of seemingly paranormal vessels and things flying through that, based on what most believe our technology is limited to, they seem fantastical. They do seem like they must be alien technology. And, the White Hats actually allowed the sort of alien narrative to continue, because strategically, from this information war that we're in, it helps them to a degree, because it actually, the cabal, they fall into the narrative of outer space and thinking of aliens and all of that kind of stuff. So the more that they can be distracted from harvesting children, basically, just to put it very simply, the better. So if they're wasting resources on trying to get to outer space and all of that, they're putting less resources into breeding, raping, and torturing children to consume them. So that's a plus, right? So it's unfortunate that people get caught up in these narratives, but it had to be done this way. It was a necessary strategy. So when people see the UFOs and things of that nature, and I don't know how much of because there's of course like abduction stories and things of that nature. Those, to my knowledge, have all been orchestrated, fabricated. So people in costumes or using technology that nobody knows about. And then that helps to create that narrative. And Whether those were intentionally put out by black hats or white hats, I'm not exactly sure. I lean towards those being more white hat operations to sort of disseminate that narrative of aliens and to trick more people in the cabal. So yeah, so that's anyway, that's what UFOs are. They're just our ancient technology being worked on and reconfigured. And I'm sure once disclosure happens and we sort of get grounded in this new realization of just how far we'd fallen into this deception of lying to us about who we really are and getting us to believe that we're insignificant, worthless little things. And once we step back into ourselves, then at least to some degree, then I'm sure all of this technology will be disclosed and we'll see it and we'll get to use it. And that'll be really exciting. So yeah, that's, that was my response there. And, yeah, I'll just leave that one there. So thanks, Freebird, for the question. And, yeah, I'll just pass it off and see if anyone else wants to jump in. Yeah, go ahead, Darth.
So, everyone in this world, at some point in time, have had to make a choice, either knowingly or not. Even if you're not aware of it and you don't know you're making the choice, you're still choosing. And that's whether or not you're going to be a parasite, or you're going to be a symbiote. And the two ways of operating are completely alien to each other. People that have the symbiotic, Christ-like energy, they just don't relate to the parasitic, anti-Christic people. And people that are parasitic in nature, they don't understand the way of doing things like Christ would. Sort of like, the bee and the fly, the bee's never going to be able to successfully explain to the fly why honey is better than shit. The fly is always going to prefer, that steaming pile to honey, because they're inherently different. And so there's two groups of people on this world at this time. And most everyone is born to the Christic family. Even those that are not very Christ-like are still Christ-like a little bit. Otherwise, how could you be born into this world? But they are those that turn away from the Christ within, and they sin against that Holy Spirit, and they really become alien to this world, because this world was not meant to manifest hell. This world was meant to manifest heaven. And so the two methodologies, operating as heaven or operating as hell, they don't agree with each other. And so this earth is really a battlefield between two families that are trying to take dominion of it. So sometimes when you're trying to operate as a Christ-like person and you're trying to move about in the anti-Christic system, it can feel alien. And to be a human, or to be, a man or a woman, a true one, you have to have those Christ-like attributes. And just because you're an adult male doesn't make you a man, or just because you're an adult female doesn't make you, truly a woman. There are spiritual attributes that have to be there in order for you to really be human. You have to have compassion. You have to have empathy. You have to have wisdom. You have to have self-awareness. And there are so many people walking around today that don't have those attributes. And so they don't qualify. They don't qualify as human because they don't have any compassion. And to be human, you have to have compassion. You have to have that Christ within. And so then when you get into the spiritual realm, and you get into the dream world, a lot of times that inner demonic, nastiness will manifest itself in the dream world or the dream realm. What some people might call the astral realm, or the higher non-material realms. Someone's true form can manifest what they look like on the inside. So, someone might be physically very beautiful. You might, look at them and they have that surface beauty and say, oh, what a beautiful man or what a beautiful woman. But on the inside, they're just completely reptilian. On the inside, they don't have anything that makes a person really human. And so on the spiritual realm, someone can be dreaming and they can encounter one of these types of people and they just won't look human at all. And so that also has contributed to a lot of the confusion. There are many people in this world that have all kinds of spiritual vision, but they don't have any spiritual training. And so they'll go to sleep and they'll have a spiritual experience, but they don't have any methodology in which to interpret it. And then they can encounter all kinds of, other entities that are not them, and they're just other people that are sleeping or other people that are in the astral realm. And they're seeing them for what they are on the inside, but they don't have any way of organizing the thoughts. They've never been initiated in any sort of, spiritual tradition to make sense of what they're seeing. And so there's all kinds of misunderstandings. So there are people that are thinking they're having an alien experience or an alien encounter. And it's not that they're meeting people from different planets, because there are no such thing. But they're not lying either. They're being honest to the experience that they had. They're just not interpreting it correctly. So there's a lot of room in this reality for all kinds of different experiences. And so I've met a lot of people that have seen things, and that's why whenever they do research, there's a really good book. I'll see if I can post it to the channel. It's a series of books about a psychologist, and he was a trauma specialist. And one day there was someone that went through some sort of alien abduction experience, and he specialized in dealing with trauma. And he received this patient. And he had a measure of success dealing with that. And then because of that, he got more and more referrals. And the one thing that really baffled him is that they were all kind of relating similar experiences, but they weren't physically actually going anywhere. And so the conclusion that he came to was that these weren't physical abductions. They were some sort of spiritual abduction. And what they were seeing was some sort of manifestation of an infiltration of some non-Christic entity, and that they were seeing some sort of manifestation of like the looshing process. So evil is supposed to be alien to this world. This world is supposed to be inhabited by a bunch of personas of Christ, but instead it's being occupied by a bunch of personas of the anti-Christic force, of which we're working on, and that's being corrected. So just because, you see, some energy, flitting across the sky, or you have some sort of experience, there's different ways to interpret that. But that doesn't mean that there's aliens coming from another world. That's just not the best way to interpret that information. But evil is alien. It's not supposed to have like the word alien also has to do with having a lien on your property, right? Oh, the bank has a lien, right? So to say that someone's alien means they're not supposed to own any property in this world. They're not supposed to be able to lean two sticks together and build a structure. So that's just another way of looking at it, and it doesn't invalidate. I agree with everything you were saying, Justin, before, and what I'm saying doesn't invalidate what you're saying at all. But people have spiritual experiences, and then sometimes because they're part of the whole Western materialistic thinking, they try to interpret it as a physical experience when it's not. They had a spiritual experience.
Yeah, that's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up. And that actually helped me shift from that perspective. I mean, this was back in 2017, 18, 19, I was pretty big into the alien exploration stuff and going down all of those various rabbit holes and things. And that was actually one of the most helpful things to get me to shift out of that. Is like, it's not to discount, because you meet and hear people who are so convicted about the experiences they've had. And so that point right there really helped me to sort of recognize that it's not to negate experiences that somebody might have in that regards. And to see where the sort of self-limiting beliefs might be compromising that particular experience, or adding a layer to it that, that at this point I don't really ascribe to as much, in the sense that I don't see, there aren't physical aliens and what I mentioned as far as the degree of powerlessness that idea can bring. But in the same vein, we can have direct spiritual experiences with angelic beings, and we can have direct experiences with beings that one might consider mythological, say it's Zeus or Hermes or any of these characters in these stories. Perhaps they did exist physically, or perhaps they've always just been a spiritual archetype. But we can have very direct, very real experiences with these. I just find it most helpful to reframe it of recognizing that it's always you. So if you want to conceptualize yourself, if you need the strength of Archangel Michael, if you need to find that courage within yourself, and you need to envision a powerful force to commune with, to be with, or if the divine deems you needing that experiences, then that's what you will get. And it can be incredibly powerful, incredibly helpful. But, just to be cautious of the sort of thinking that we're unworthy to be that. You are Archangel Michael. You are all of these beings that have ever been and ever will be. So that takes away from the sort of amplification of the powerlessness that having an idea that this being is more worthy or more powerful or any of these kind of things, and coming back to a sort of level playing field of like these different archetypes, these different characters can show up in any way that they need to, all serving the divine story that's unfolding that we're all a part of. So yeah, thank you for saying that and clarifying that, Darth. I thought that was very well said. And yeah, I'll just I'll pass it off and see if anybody else wants to jump in either on this topic or take us any which way. Hey, Tracy, go ahead.
Well, hello, everybody. It has been really beautiful to listen along. And yeah, I absolutely love listening to you, Robyn, as well. Excuse me. Thank you for sharing so intimately and so in depth. And something that is obviously it touches so many people. So thank you. Thank you for that. So I'm gonna talk about something that's completely different, nothing personal. So just an update on something of voter fraud related. So there's some new evidence actually that's come out, not just some rumors flying around. There's actually evidence on this now, come out by Professor David Clements and Joel Oatman specifically. They have been two of the main people that have been in various different groups dealing with the voter fraud from 2020. So they have exposed the person, it's not a personality per se, it's actually who he is, but Scott Pressler. Scott Pressler is the gay activist who has been doing voter registration in different areas. Like I'm not going to give specific details at the moment. I haven't got them in front of me to quote them, but there's a recent election that went on in Madison County that actually went to a Democrat. So the numbers did not add up. In the claims that he was making, he was claiming to have registered like tens of thousands of people in different areas, and getting actual applications filled, everything supposed to be done perfectly the way the system needs. And he stated that he did, but it's been exposed that he has not. The numbers aren't there at all in the comparisons of what they have and all the history of all the numbers that they have in these regions. So they're able to look back and they're able to verify these things in this way. So that's why I'm not going to give exact numbers to go, oh, it was this and then it went to this. But anyways, it's been exposed that who he's being paid by. I'm not going to give those details right now either to call out all the others, but to make all the dot connections. But his father is ex-CIA, retired CIA, and who specifically ran type of, I said I'm not going to really use the terms, but like a communication psyops. And like it sounds so simple when you're there when I'm reading it, but when I go to retell it to you, I'm not experienced enough to actually get it quite right. But anyways, so this kind of stuff is being exposed, which is really quite interesting, because they're all just recently. Scott Pressler apparently took credit and said something to President Trump. Yeah, I'm the one responsible for da 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 da, and he's actually got recognition. I believe he was actually just in the White House recently, getting this recognition and making these declarations about himself. Like it wasn't other people going, "Oh, you did this, you did that, congratulations." He's the one that came up and said, "No, I did this. I got this done for the president." So it's quite fascinating to watch, all these kind of things. There's just so many moving parts. It's hard for anybody to keep up on all the news right now when we see what's going on within the Trump administration, which there's amazing stuff going on. But really hard to keep track of because there's just so much. But this is one's quite interesting, because I was one that was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm gays for Trump. Okay, yeah, that sounds all right. Yeah, sure. Okay, all the the more the merrier kind of attitude, and yeah, I'm not just bringing this up just because it's about the gays for Trump kind of thing, but they're the actual insidious plotting that they're doing. It's quite interesting to see, how they're being exposed. When this is over on X where I'm finding this information, by the way. So if anybody wanted to go and verify what I'm saying and is interested to look into this, it is Professor Clements and Joe. Is it Ottman or Altman? Forgive me, I'm not sure. Not sure if any of you are familiar. There might be names you might recognize because they have been in the forefront of the voter fraud since 2020. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see. But it's his mother is involved, his brother, himself, and his dad. So they kind of he's moved into some area as close to there as well. So he close to this Madison County, this place that it's in dispute at the moment, or is being investigated anyways, because there was such a flip in the numbers, and it's being claimed as well that they're absolutely, because one thing that Scott Preston was doing was he was pushing for the early voting, the mail-in voting, so all things that can actually be screwed with, because if they get those early numbers, that's how they can print out the fake ballots, the fraudulent ballots afterwards. So, and one telling thing that Joe and Professor David Clemens also say is they've never been able to get him to admit that they can anything about the 2020 voter fraud or voter whatever the voter, whatever was going on in the whole different areas, because there's different areas that were being disputed, but I think it was Arizona specifically is where they were focusing on in the beginning there, and doing all of the investigations there. But so they're able to tell now, like this, it all sounded really good. Oh yeah, early voting, and yeah, let's get organized, and let's this is the way to go. So, but they could never get Scott to admit that there was something wrong with the machines. So that's been a red flag for them to sort of have suspicions about specific players who were just not willing to even ever say that on the record. So that's actually, quite a red flag. And so, yeah, it's quite interesting. But yeah, I know it's kind of a shift in topic, but I just thought I'd share that. And yeah, I'd like to give some personal updates, but I'm a little bit groggy. So I think I'll share maybe next week. Yeah, I'll share next week with some updates and stuff like that. But good news to report is it's getting warm here. Winter is actually kind of officially over. So I was able to swim yesterday, and getting back to the beach. Like, it's still quite cold. The water's quite cold, but we got up to like 28 degrees yesterday, which is like in the 80s, so that was quite lovely. And it's really quiet at the beach, but it's just so beautiful to get back to it. But I really can feel the shift going into the winter, how my body's responded, going through what I've been going through personally with with my diet and with go-go juice and everything, and I've been able to maintain pretty well. But yeah, I've kind of been all over the place a little bit for a few months during Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that. There's a bit of it's kind of some stuff I've been dealing with personally, but for the most part, yeah, feeling really good. I've kept on track with things. And yeah, just really good to get back, but just really feel like, wow, I've got to work quite a bit to get back to where I was, even though it was just like 5-6 months ago, November. But it has flown by really fast. But it is a long time to be away, and getting that vitamin D in that form is so crucial to my mental headspace and how I feel physically and my sleep and everything. So I'm really looking forward to getting back on track with that. And what else? I think that's about it for now. Yeah, I'm just update. I'm still in the same apartment. I have no idea what's going on with my ex. I cut off communication. It'll be almost 3 months. I've not spoken. I had to change my phone number. It was getting kind of nasty and stuff. So communication just broke down. And so, excuse me. So I cut off communication, but I was, being, evicted, and the landlord was possibly, which I did not know of, was possibly going to be presenting me, with taking me to court to evict me. But my ex wasn't wanting that to happen in that way, because he didn't want to be liable. So it was really, really messy all through. Like, this has gone on for 6 months. But anyway, so I have been here. I'm still here, and just kind of, but it's, I could say, yeah, it's been lovely to be able to stay, and I've really appreciated every moment, because I'm just in the headspace of, well, I could be out of here tomorrow. I could be getting the notice tomorrow. So it's waiting for the knock on the door as well has been a real test, to just have to just be, not try to sit and overthink it. And it's easy to say, oh, I haven't really worried that much, but no, I did. And I had to try to, get myself out of my own head to not have an expectation of an outcome. So just really surrendering it all and just going, okay, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I've, mentioned it here, yeah, well, I could be living in the park next, because I don't have the funds to be able to move out anywhere. You have to have 4 months rent to be able to get a new place, and all those kind of things that I don't have in place to do that by myself at this point yet, mostly financial. So it's been a real test to myself. So I'm watching myself react to it, and having to learn how to just yeah, just to accept, not necessarily accept my fate. I don't want to make it sound like it's something um, that I've given up, if you will, because that was part of it too. Was like I could have just left. Went, okay, fine, I'll just go leave. I'll just go move out, and I'll go live in the park down the street. Because that's really where I was at. There was really no other options. I'd gone through the system here of trying to apply for public housing, any kind of financial sort of welfare, if you will. And I don't fit the criteria until I actually move out, until I'm homeless. They actually said to me, well, when you find, wherever you find yourself staying, whatever park it is, whatever location it is, then you can send that address. You can then apply for public housing. I was like, oh, okay. That doesn't sound very good. I don't think I'm going to do that. So I didn't get, like, to me, giving up would have went, okay, I'll leave. All right, I'll go try to find some other whatever. And so it's, I don't want to give, like, sort of details like of divorce and stuff like that, what's going on, but just it's not necessarily that it was ugly, but just, it's kind of personal stuff, and didn't want to air my, if you will, dirty laundry on here and stuff like that. But so I didn't want to sort of give up, if you will, and just leave. So it's part of standing my ground and staying. And maybe to some it might seem like, oh God, that's not really smart. You don't really know what's going on. Maybe you should have, like, if you're just going to be pushed out of there. Well, that's what I thought. I was like, well, no, I'm just gonna wait until I'm actually, walked out of here. If I actually have to be physically removed, there's a eviction notification. Then and only then will I react to that. And so yeah, so far I'm 3 months in, and I don't know what's going on, and however longer we have to go here, if it's like you're saying, you've mentioned possibly going to the fall, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine having to feel like this, sort of, it's not like it's I don't know, I don't really know how to put words to it, actually, but it has been stress inducing, but yet also freeing at the same time. And then the not knowing did get to me at times. It doesn't now, but I'm grateful to be here still, grateful to have a roof over my head. And every time I, use anything in my house when cooking, it's something simple or just whatever it is, I'm just so grateful for those basic amenities, because they can be gone, which we've witnessed people going through so much horrific stuff, all the different catastrophic so-called natural disasters that have happened to people. And it could be, you can have everything just completely gone, your whole life's everything you built could be gone in an instant. So I do appreciate it in that sense. And so yeah, I'm just really grateful to be here listening to you all as well. So grateful for you, Justin. You have this space for us. We are so blessed to have this space. So I'm not over doing other sort of lives and other places, but just being able to see on X, people do, and people I've popped into some that just pop up. They're not people I actually follow, but I'll pop into the spaces spot over there when people do have lives and people are chatting like this in open lives and stuff, open conversations. And I have to say, like, it's such a beautiful thing that we can have so many different topics, so many different people, and so many different kind of shares, and the topics we get to cover. We're extremely, extremely blessed. So I love you so very much, everybody here. And thank you again, Justin. Love you too.
Thanks, Tracy. Love you so much. And yeah, just appreciate all of that. And yeah, we're definitely with you on, the stuff you're going through. And I'm glad it sounds like you're in a space of peace with it, and how beautiful that gift is to shift to that space of gratitude, so we're not taking things for granted. And so that's a wonderful way to alchemize that experience. So I commend you on that. And yeah, as far as the timeline goes, I mean, most of y'all might be aware that Trump just extended the tariffs by 90 days because of the whole, quote unquote trade war going on with China, which, that's all contrived. Like China and Trump are working together to goad other people into sort of exposing themselves. These people who have held on to so much money and acquired it in, very shady ways, are exposing themselves in droves because of what's happening here and what's happening with the markets. So he did give that extension to 90 days. I don't know if that's a timeline nod for, it might not be till after that 90 days is over, or what that's going to look like. I mean, could be anything, could be any day. However, I am, cautious of setting any expectations of any timeline, because it could be sometime, it could be, and who knows how long. So just good to be here now and celebrate what we have and what we're doing, and hold each other through it when we're in those challenging moments, to hold each other. So thank you for sharing, Tracy. Good to hear from you, and thanks for the update. I think that's a good amount of time to go ahead and start wrapping up for today, because I do have 2 more songs that I want to leave you guys with. And while we do just have a few moments, I want to go over the lyrics of the songs that I would like to send us off with, just very briefly. So we'll go through. So the first song I'm going to play is Come As You Are. So I see this as kind of like, come as you are. God's not trying to have us be any other way. Come as you are. Stop trying to be somebody else or base your identity off of what we think it should be, but just come as you are. So come as you are, as you were, as I want you to be, as a friend, as an old enemy, because we are the duality. We are both. Take your time, hurry up. So the sort of like ebb and flow of this process. Choice is yours. Don't be late. Take a rest, as a friend, as an old memory. So maybe this is reflecting on the memory of what we once were and what we're coming back to. Sort of coming as we are, back to who we are. So as an old memory. So come doused in mud, soaked in bleach, as I want you to be, as a trend, as a friend, as an old memory. So I see that as just more poetic ways to describe the ebb and flow that we've been in and pushed ourselves in, doused in mud, soaked in bleach, where we've fallen into the mess and tried to cleanse ourselves off. And so just come as you are. And I swear that I don't have a gun. Maybe hinting at like the do no harm, or just sort of taking the edge off any risk. We put our guards up, our walls up when we feel we're threatened. So I swear that I don't have a gun. You don't have anything to worry about. And we can safely go back and remember who we truly are. So anyway, there could be a lot more to that one, but just briefly, that's that song, Come As You Are. And then the last one will be Smells Like Teen Spirit. So load up on guns, bring your friends. It's fun to lose and to pretend. She's overboard and self-assured. Oh, I know a dirty word. So this whole song I see it as examination of the fallen state of man. Smells Like Teen Spirit is in like the teenage years are kind of like the pivotal moment where if we are in a healthy society, we would be shifting and transmuting and maturing. But since we're living in Babylon largely, then that teenage years is where we really descend further into the mess and the muck. And that's what he's singing about here, because he's like, hello. And hello is like, invert that, oh, hell. So hello, 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 how low? How low will we go? How low will we fall? With the lights out, it's less dangerous. Our darkness can come out. Here we are now, entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious, as we are dumbed down and spreading this fearful disease. Here we are now, entertain us. A mulatto, an albino, a mosquito, my libido. So mosquito, the parasite, my libido, the sexual energy within, wasting it, spilling our seed. I'm worse at what I do best, and for this gift I feel blessed. Our little group has always been and always will until the end. Yeah, so sort of the self-deprecation in here, and for this gift I feel blessed. Our little group has always been and always will until the end. So maybe our little group being like the temptations to lower ourselves into the fallen state. I don't know. That verse I'm not as clear on. And then it repeats here, and I forget just why I taste. So yeah, I guess it makes me smile. I found it hard. It's hard to find. Oh well, whatever. Never mind. And that's the name of the album. So it's like this sort of indifferent way of falling into apathy. I don't give a shit about anything. I'm just going to serve myself. I'm just going to serve the internal pleasures. So that's what this song is about. And then it repeats and ends with a denial, you know, because we're in denial when we're in that state. So anyway, that's those two songs, and I'm going to play us out as we end today's show. And so just want to thank everyone for being here today. Thanks for everyone sharing. Thank you, Robyn, so much for your wonderful, vulnerable sharing. And thank you, everyone else who's chimed in today. It's always such a pleasure, such a joy. So enjoy these songs as they play you out. And as always, we'll continue doing all the things, these conversations, and yeah, everything. So just sending out love. Take care, everybody.